You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis show. It's brought to you by the kindest sponsorship of Star Assurance. That's your solid partner. Lipton Tea, inspiration flowing from nature. And Errata Motors, that's the best vehicles at the best prices. Of course, MTN. Welcome to the new world. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini, and my outfit, as always, is provided by Latida. Don't worry that it's not ironed. This is Ghana. For about 5 continuous days where I live in Dansoman, the lights, as if someone is just there. There's a kid in the power room somewhere fidgeting with it and playing games with it. We haven't had light for quite a bit of the time. Very interesting in the country, and I understand that a lot of people are experiencing similar situations at a time when the President John Mahama has declared that the doomsday is over and told the whole world that, you know, we are doing so well, and comparing us, telling us a story using South Africa that we are doing so well in this side of the globe. Mr. President, I hope that this will be your major achievements at the end of your tenure. It's not good at all. Welcome to the show. Your views are welcome. 1422, that's a text line. Send them 1422. You can also post your comments on our Facebook wall or send them to newsfile@myjoyonline.com. Again, if you are my friend on Facebook, you can post your comments there. I'm back on Facebook. Thank you very much. My guests are seated. I have from my extreme right, Abdul Malik Kwekubaka Jr. He is editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Next to him is Abraham Amalba. He is a member of the NDC legal team and a lecturer. Godwin Adawune, to my left, is a private legal practitioner, and he's also a lecturer. We'll be joined shortly by Gabi Asari Ochre Dako. He's the publisher of the New Statesman newspaper, and is a businessman who is based in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much. Join us with your thoughts on the issues that we are going to be looking at. But first of all, and strictly just taking about just a minute of comment from all of you on this very disturbing situation, but this man has gained his freedom after 14 years. I call him the innocent guilty. When I did my project at the LLB sometime in 2007 on the subject, pre-trial detainees turned convicted prisoners in Ghana, I dedicated it to the innocent guilty. At that time, about 40%, and that was the statistics, about 40% of the people on remand of the prison population were people on remand. And I doubted that statistic even at the time. I wonder what the number is now. It's very sad commentary on this country. 14 years, wasted precious years in jail for nothing, and got how much? 200,000 Ghana cedis in damages. Specific questions to each one of you, and I'm looking at your competencies to deal with them. Mr. Bako, what happens to the prosecutors who were assigned to this man's case? Because as far as we know, Francis Ejari was dumped into the prison cells and forgotten off completely after he appeared in court and was given a week to return for whatever processes to continue. That was the very last time he ever appeared in court. The question is, well, now we are celebrating and we are happy he's gotten his freedom, but do we leave the system as it is? What happens to those prosecutors who were in charge of his case? Their bosses, were they submitting any reports to their bosses? Were their bosses demanding any reports from them at all?
Well. But this is a long-standing problem.
Right.
I've been to prison a couple of times, and there were people there who had been there about 10 years, 14 years, 15 years before I got there, and they were not convicts. Of course, in some category, they were murder suspects. Sometimes their cases are a bit drugs, but still important, the element of justice. If you have not tried and convicted me, I ought not to be there unduly.
Right.
So there were people there. Some had been there 14 years, 10 years, 12 years. Kitikrachi prison, I met people like that. Kofodra prisons, I met people like that. In Saom, I met people. The same with the Osha Fort. So really, it's nothing new. What is new now is this dramatic success that has been achieved, and I'm supposed a lawyer undertook that exercise. Yes, I think we must commend him. I don't know how much he's going to get out of the...
He did it pro bono.
Fantastic. He's a fantastic gentleman. I salute him. But back to the substantive issue. It's a triangle. The police, the prisons, and the courts. This constitutes the criminal justice system in its larger sense.
Right.
And that's where the problem is. We need to find out, because I don't know the specific details as to what this gentleman was arrested for, when he was arrested, by which police station and all the rest. I'm unable to be very specific. But generally speaking, clearly, but for this system,
okay.
yes, we have a certain system.
Justice for all program.
But for it, which was also, let's be honest, a response by state authorities, particularly the judiciary, to cure some of this mischief. This gentleman may have rot in there.
Right.
So the blame is clearly, as I said, it's a triangle, but I will go first for the prosecution, the police. It's those who effected his arrest. And it's them who must be sending him to court.
Exactly.
That's the first line. I'm not a lawyer. Fortunately, three of you are lawyers.
You know it. You're right.
So that's where I'll lay emphasis in terms of allocation of blame. But I wonder, the gentleman said he lost his wife. I'm not sure where he knows where his child
dropped out of school.
Yeah. Well, the money is not that big, but it's big enough for him to re-engineer his life.
Okay. Yeah. I meant to take very brief comments from you.
I'm sorry.
And Mr. Malba, tell me, like Koku mentioned, the prisons, the police, the judiciary, they all come together to make the system work. What did prison officials who discovered that this man's warrant had long expired, what did they do?
Yeah, good question.
Samson, it brings to sharp focus the institutional failures that our justice delivery system is embroiled with. You see, there are a number of these cases. I have done some work. Koku, he has been there, but I've also been there, but not a convicted prisoner, but to do some work in there.
Yeah, you used to belong to that group that visited the prisons.
Exactly. The Legal Resource Center.
Right.
We've visited in Sawam. We've gone to Cape Coast, Navrongo, and thereabout. The point has always been the lack of due diligence when it comes to investigations.
Sorry, Asaro Chredako has just joined us. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Morning.
Okay. Anytime he gets to town, we get to drag him here. Okay. Yep.
So, Samson, the problem has to do with that chain that you are talking about. That's the prisons, the police, the judiciary. The problem has to do with the lack of proper investigation. If we had done proper investigation in this gentleman's case, he wouldn't have even been sent to court in the first place.
But my specific question to you is, the prison officers also have a duty.
Yes.
You don't just accept anybody at all who is dumped there. And of course, they come there with warrants. When the warrant is expired, what is your duty? What did the prison officers assigned to him do? The prison's boss, who had the obligation to ensure that the people who are there were there legally, what did they do?
But something, you can't just jump to the prisons. I'm saying that investigations, if they were conducted properly, wouldn't have landed the man in jail. Now, when you get into the jail, you are brought there with a warrant.
Right.
Now, when your warrant expires, that warrant has to be renewed. Did they do that? I'm sure they didn't do that. Now, you cannot blame so much the courts, because the courts will only wait on the return date, you bring the accused person. But if you don't bring the accused person, the judges will not be able to determine whether the person was supposed to come or not. All that they will do is to adjourn your case to the next adjourned day. And so I think that what we should be doing is to have a collaboration, a link between the prisons, the police, and the judiciary. And there should be reports, daily reports on these prisoners.
Thank you.
Else, it is going to continue this way, and I know that this man's case is not the only one. There are more of those cases, and I'm sure this is going to open a Pandora's box for more people to come up with such cases.
Well, I think in a very serious country, maybe a commission will be set up over this matter because it's such embarrassing. Now, Abraham says rightly that it's not only the problem of the prison officials, but I'm asking the question. For example, if you had a commission set up to look into this, in the end, I expect that the prosecutor, I expect that the prosecutors or their bosses, I expect that the prison officer who was assigned to him and their bosses, all of these people will come in line, and someone must take some, you know, some liability. Otherwise, we'll continue in this same cycle. Now, the question is, he says if you don't produce the person in court the next day, the judge cannot do anything. Should that be the case? The judge who said, I remand you into prison to appear the next date. The next date happens, the prosecutor doesn't bring the prisoner, the accused person. Shouldn't the judge be interested in asking where the accused person is?
Yeah, the judge has to be interested because the record will show that this gentleman is supposed to be in court today. And someone has the responsibility to have brought him to court. And if that hasn't happened, the judge should demand an explanation. But you see, we play with human rights issues in this particular country. Although we have very elaborate provisions in our constitution purporting to protect human rights. Let me tell you a story. A couple of years ago, this was a murder case that we're involved in. The gentleman had been put on remand for 1 month. The Attorney General Department didn't come. We went again for about 3 months, and we asked the court to release the gentleman because the Attorney General Department clearly was showing no interest, and there was no basis to keep him there. The court said, if the gentleman had been there for 3 months, there's nothing wrong if you put him for another 1 month. This is a human rights issue. That tells you the mentality that we have. And I'm talking about the institutions towards issues of human rights. You are right on the issue of liability. Why should the state be burdened with this responsibility? Because some individuals fail to do the work they were tasked to do. I would have expected the court to have ordered that these individuals, if they are still available, be surcharged, with the cost of the damages, so that will at least serve as a deterrent to people in charge of such cases. We're supposed to take human rights issues as sacred issues, but we are paying lip service to them. And it's becoming very worrying, especially for people who are poor. They cannot afford the services of lawyers.
Right.
They have nobody to speak for them. So virtually they are there, with their rights being abused with reckless abandon.
Okay. Now, Gabi, finally to you, and I want you to also look at this aspect. He mentions they are unable to afford legal counsel and they are left there to languish, to rot. We have a legal aid system scheme in this country. What happened to it?
I think you're just reading my mind, actually. 2 weeks ago in England, barristers and solicitors went on a demonstration because the government had cut down legal aid. So the lawyers themselves, because they are, if you like, the ones who are to go and defend accused persons, and they know that without legal aid, a lot of these accused persons would not have access to justice. So they stood up against that. Maybe you should ask yourself, what is our bar association doing about this matter? Because really, I would expect that it's something that the bar association can take on seriously. So that's the first thing, because without legal aid, they are just thrown into the bin, as it were, and left to rot. That's basically what it is. Right. And it's more expensive to the state, because if you put an innocent person in jail for 14 years, it costs you in terms of keeping the person in jail. And there are a lot of people who are behind bars and ought not to be there.
Right.
You know, and so it's more expensive that way. And I think, first of all, I disagree with you slightly that the individuals ought to be surcharged. I think the state ought to take the blame, and it's up to the state to ensure that individuals within these institutions undertake their responsibilities. Because at the end of the day, judges have a responsibility, as you said. They don't do anything about it. The state prosecutors don't. But I think that the Bar Association, in particular, can do more to protect the rights of individuals, because that's what lawyers are supposed to do.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and we hope that something seriously will be done about this situation so that we don't leave it to just this single man and go to sleep after today. Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. Your text messages are welcome. 1422, that's the text line, 1422. You can post your comments on our Facebook wall or send them to newsfile@myjoyonline.com. Now, we want to go first to the very first issue, which is about the Honorable Alban Bagbin, who talks about MPs taking bribes. Call it the confession of the MP. Now, we are asking, what is the reality? Is it not the case that they really do take bribes in the situations that Alban Bagbin describes? What outcomes are we expecting from the MPs who have been so accused, setting up a panel of judges of themselves to probe themselves? What will be the most effective way to deal with this situation? We are hoping to speak to the majority leader and the minority leader, as yesterday they finished their job on this matter, asking that an inquiry be done, and subsequently Bagbin will be around to answer to their charges. Let's now just take a listen to Mr. Bagbin and also the majority leader in the House of Parliament yesterday.
You know, the reality is that MPs are Ghanaians. Yes, and so there's some evidence that some MPs take bribe and they come to the floor and try to articulate the views of their sponsors. You understand? Yeah. Because Ghana will not develop what we call lobby. There are rules, there are ethics surrounding lobbying. And so we think that lobbying is taking money to go and give to some MPs and writing your piece for them to articulate on the floor. That is bribing. Lobbying is a profession which is done all over the world. Try to lobby like the civil society organizations. You want to lobby Parliament. There's a way of doing it without it being seen as bribing.
The Right Honourable Speaker himself, in opening the first post-budget workshop for committee chairpersons, ranking members and sub-backbenchers of Parliament, organized from the 6th to the 8th of March 2013 at Koforidua, advised against the dependence of parliamentary committees on NDAs as well as the interface between such committees and other stakeholders in consideration and facilitation of parliamentary business. Pursuant to this admonition, the House on the 4th of July 2013 constituted a committee chaired by the Honourable Member for Naduli Kaleu to draft a code of conduct for members of Parliament. The House is aware that this committee has held a series of meetings and is in the process of finalizing a report which is to be laid before this House. Mr. Speaker, it must be stated that it is in the interest of this country to help strengthen Parliament to perform its functions effectively. It is in this regard that the leadership of the House has taken particular interest in the allegations attributed to the Honourable Member for Naduli Kaleu. The House accordingly asked the leadership to engage the member concerned on the matter and advise Parliament on it. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member is still out of the jurisdiction on official assignment, and leadership would engage him on his return. Leadership assures that whatever is appropriate would be done to elicit the truth in this matter, and no effort will be spared in this regard. Notwithstanding, leadership pursuant to the mandate for the time being given by the House appeals to any person who may have any evidence to present such information to the Clerk of Parliament for onward transmission to leadership.
That's the Majority Leader in Parliament, Dr. Benjamin Kumbo. And I'll start with you, Gabi. I don't know what you think. The scenario that Bagwin narrates and says there's evidence that MPs take bribes. Do you think it qualifies for bribe, strictly so to speak?
Well, I'm not in a position to know better than Alban Bagwin, and I wouldn't claim to be in such a position. But I think that it is a legitimate concern. And I think it is more legitimate in the sense that I stand to be corrected. But do we have code of conduct for parliamentarians?
We don't have it yet. They are now thinking of what?
Absolutely. You know, and this is common practice wherever you go. We don't have that. And in the absence of that, then, because if you notice, lobbying itself is double-edged. It can be for good lobbying and it can be for bad lobbying, you know, in terms of powerful influence against the rest of us, or the other way, you know, against, if you like, powerful interests. So lobbying itself is not necessarily a bad thing, although it's been given a bad name. But where you don't have rules covering how you can do proper lobbying in terms of ethics and the moralities of it, then of course we have these difficulties. So I don't think they should run away from it. I think they should address it. Because, look, was it not this week that we heard about the Ridge Hospital matter? Apparently is overpriced by almost twice what it's supposed to be. I think, according to the Crown Agent report, is 142 million or 145 million or so overpriced, and it should have been $165 million instead of the 306 or whatever it is. So, but then you speak to the, I listened to Jifa, interviewed vice chairman of the finance committee that looked into it and recommended it to the whole house, and basically he said, well, we're happy with it. But on what basis? You know, so I think the problem is where you don't have, first of all, a parliament that has the capacity to undertake due diligence, to have research material. You go to the U.S. Congress, they have a whole section, you know, section for research. They have policy analysts, about 400 of them, who provide the members, the congressmen and women, with information, unadulterated information.
Okay, so let's get a bit practical here. Let's try if this is a good example. You're asking the question, on what basis did the chairman of the finance committee, or is it the minister, okay that this was
Precisely.
okay?
You know,
on what basis? And I'm asking, is it lobbying if those who need this facility went to parliament or called the members of parliament to a meeting and paid for their TNT and for their breakfast and lunch and explained to them that we need how many blocks, we need how many wards, we need this kind of equipment to be in there, and we'll get them from so and so for this amount, and that's what it is. Is it bribery?
I'm getting to that. So imagine that I'm an MP, and you've paid for this horrible tea that I'm drinking, and then you've given me some biscuits, okay? And of course, you've paid for my transport, and you've given me your side of the story. Fortunately, whether you paid my TNT or not, I have information, independent information from the Research Department of Parliament, which contradicts what you are telling me. Whatever influence that you seek to give me would be somehow counterbalanced by the information that's been given to me, because I'm just an MP. I may not have the capacity to do the research that is required. So where you have absence of research capacity, and at the same time Parliament is not financially equipped to undertake its own work, if you need to go to Ashanti Goldfields or whatever, they have to sponsor that, then you have that difficulty. You know, so I would not blame the MPs so much, because at the end of the day they have to go there to see it for themselves. And as they have to do that, as to who sponsors it, it's up to the state, it's up to Parliament to undertake that. But I think whatever money you can give, whether it's legitimate or not, it has to be covered by rules. And secondly, if you give the money, the TNT, and I have information which contradicts yours, then I'll be checked.
Okay, hold it on there. Now, shall we define bribery before our legislators do so? What is bribery differentiated from lobbying?
That is a very difficult thing to do with respect to the jobs of the MP. Now let us look at the issues this way. Suppose there is before Parliament a bill, let's say on domestic violence, and you have an NGO or a group of organizations that are very committed to eradicating domestic violence from our system. And let's also say that the process of passing this bill into law is being dragged, so there's delay. And these groups want the process to be, quickened. And they adopt various methods. They demonstrate, no results. They use the media, no results. Then they decide that let's get these MPs to a very beautiful venue and give them very sumptuous meals and very tasty beverages and give them all the comfortable treatment with the view to getting them to work on this bill faster than they are doing. They're seeking to influence it. Now, let's say that at the end of the process, they give out envelopes and then label them for petrol, and the MPs take. These envelopes, they don't account to Parliament. They put in their pockets and then they go home and they spend. Clearly, these things were given to them. They haven't accounted for them, because we don't have a rule that says that when you get these monies, come and then account. So they take them. Then the next day, they are in Parliament, arguing very vigorously that the bill must become law and all of that. A picture like this, can we say this is bribery? Because there is a public interest element in what they are doing. The groups are definitely not seeking any private benefit from this. It's something that the entire society is going to benefit from. Their concern has to do with the speed, and all that they have done is to ensure that that speed is obtained. I wouldn't describe this as bribery, properly so-called, as to constitute an evil. But let's see that...
Is it a healthy society or a sick one that has its MPs who need to be galvanized in the manner you are saying before they do their jobs for which they are paid every month?
Fine.
And the whole of this week they have been late in the House. Yeah. At one point you had about 70 of them being absent without permission, and you have about 30 of them this week being absent with permission. What is that?
So that constitutes a different problem.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, if they had been invited to another meeting
they would have been
where
there.
There would be some very good, per diem, which is not a bribe, they would have attended.
Precisely. But that constitutes a different problem from the one we are discussing now. But let's say that that problem will then give rise to the kind of activity that these hypothetical NGOs may be undertaking. So, in my opinion, this picture will not represent an example of bribery.
What is bribe?
Good. In my, from my perspective, you bribe a public official by inducing him with whatever, you may have, for the purpose of influencing the performance of his public duties in your benefit, to benefit you. So we are looking at a private
So it's
game.
okay when we go to public offices or government agencies and you drop a brown envelope so that your application can be fast-tracked.
That's bribery.
Is it okay?
That's bribery.
That's bribery.
Because, it's...
But you just gave the example that the NGO would call them to sort of seek to fast-track it, and that is not bribery.
There are two things here. In the case of the individual, he is seeking a private gain.
He's seeking a private gain. He's entitled. The Constitution says that he's entitled to work, to earn a living. And he's seeking a job. Or he's asking a passport officer to get his passport done for him. What is private, really private gain about it?
The point where I disagree with you has to do with the NGO is seeking to ensure that the bill is passed. Now you are saying that this individual is entitled to have his, what do we call it, his passport. There may be bureaucratic obstacles explaining why he's not getting it, I mean, as speedy as he would. Now if he pays the money, you will notice that certain things will have to be done. Other people may have to sacrifice for him to get it, and that is the evil. So I mean, there are basic differences between them.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Just hold it there and come to you, Abdul Malik. Following the discussion so far, does it come to you as any surprise what Mr. Bagwin talks about?
Well,
is it new to you?
the Bagwin allegation, as specific as it is new. The strict proof is on him. I don't see why we are attempting to generalize the issue or to interrogate a perception or an abstraction. The point that, oh, we are all human beings and we are prone to corruption, bribery and the rest is not the issue here. A member of parliament, a long-standing member of parliament, has made a specific allegation to the effect that there is evidence that some MPs take bribes and go on the floor of the House to do advocacy.
Exactly.
Yes, why aren't we putting him to strict proof? Why are we trying to generalize the issue, to look at lobbying and the resource constraint of parliament and all that before? And so in the process, we create a forest of issues and hide the Bagwin tree. You cannot identify the Bagwin tree because there's a forest out there, a huge one. I am insisting that the honorable member of parliament, considering his stature and status, has made a specific allegation. He ought to provide evidence to support it. Who hasn't been discussing the resource constraint parliament faces? Who? It's an old issue. The question of parliament seeking sponsorship from parliamentary committees seeking sponsorship from organizations is an old issue.
Right.
Members of parliament on the floor of the House have made calls for parliament to be resourced, to be provided with constituency offices, with research assistants, with so many things. I have all the Hansards here to prove it. Chinwe Hesse's report, they recommended the need for offices and the rest. President Mills in his State of Nation address did the same.
And Job 600 has been going on forever.
Job 600 has been going for how many years? There was a World Bank $25 million initially. All those things are issues that we discuss, and we discuss them within the context in which they ought to be discussed. Now, a bribery allegation has been made by a senior, long-standing member of parliament. We ought to look at that first. That's the issue before us.
Right.
And I think that it is important. I'm happy that he has accepted the challenge to appear before parliament. That is the committee. His
colleagues should stop behaving as if they were ostriches.
Where was he all the time? See, let me give you a classic, and this is where parliament itself has to stand up. The PC, Bagwin himself, Bagwin himself, when on 6th, this is Hansard, 6th July 2009, Chumesi appeared, they were discussing the government of Ghana and IDA EGPRC agreement. Okay, and in the course of the deliberation, Chumesi appeared made some allegations, allusions to PC appears allegation of $5,000 bribe. Bagwin came in forcefully, quoted article, the standing order 30 and 31, and then requested the speaker to refer the matter to the privileges committee. You hear him. The matter of the allegation made by Honorable PC Apiofori on the issue that Honorable Felix Chumesi Appiah had just mentioned. And this is a matter I believe we must get to the bottom, because it actually affects the dignity and reputation of parliament as an institution and members of parliament as a whole, and erodes the fabric of democracy in this country. I believe this is a serious matter that our committee should deal with expeditiously and let the whole world know what actually happened. And I think we are able, if we are able to do that, and we are able to convince the generality of the populace, definitely we will be on a very good course. I suspected that if no action was taken with this matter, these exchanges will be erupting. It is good that it has come today. It has come today when the matter was to be referred. At the end of the day, the Speaker ruled that that matter should be referred to the Privileges Committee, and it was. Then, incidentally, Duajaho, Honorable Duajaho, who today is the Speaker, was the chairman of the Privileges Committee. Now, don't forget that when PC also made his allegation, he said that Ajaho was a source relative to that particular allegation. Now, this is the drama unfolding. I've been trying in the last few days to check what happened to that referral to the Privileges Committee.
Right.
Blank space. Yeah.
Who was the Minister of Health when the Rich Hospital contract was signed?
This one,
Yeah.
I'm not too sure. I don't
It
know.
appears
I don't want to
was
speculate.
Mr. Bagbin at the time.
Amazing.
That's the answer he's looking for from you.
Mischief.
Now this is what you do. Kuku, you may have to hold on there for me briefly.
Yeah, okay.
Let me come to Abraham Emmanuel.
Okay.
Now, you hear Bagbin say a number of things and make references to they being called over this 40s, merchant bank matters, right? And the way, they needed to be, as it were, giving their TNTs and help to be able to understand the issues. You feel that these are abnormal situations and we should not interrogate them the manner in which we are doing now?
Bagbin's revelation or allegation for me reminds me of my own issue with the judiciary. I remember when 4 lawyers, including myself, made similar allegations and were taken to the cleaners. But in this instance, particular case, I see Parliament approaching it from a more professional way, where Parliament has accepted the challenge and has agreed to put up a committee to look into it. Whereas in our case, we were blacklisted completely and we didn't have the opportunity to state our case. I see this as a challenge to Parliament to look inwards within itself to try to deal with these perceptions. Indeed, there have been a number of research work from GII. You also have there's
the Ghana Integrity Initiative.
We also have Transparency International, which has done some research on perception of corruption in Ghanaian society. And Parliament came up either third or so after the police and the executive. So this is the time that we will say that Parliament will now have the opportunity to exercise this allegation. I hear Alban Bagbin say that, is there corruption in the Ghanaian society? If your answer is yes, then there's corruption in Parliament. I hear Alban Bagbin say that, is there corruption within the executive? Because every day we put the executive under the carpet.
That is the general part of the statement.
Exactly.
But he narrows into very specific
Exactly. So I'm saying that when you situate what he said, he's just telling you that Parliament as an institution is a subset of the Ghanaian society. And if you are complaining about corruption within the Ghanaian society, you cannot isolate Parliament. That's the first point. Indeed, he goes on to then make the specific allegation that he has evidence to show that some parliamentarians take bribe. At this juncture, I would then request him to provide evidence, because he didn't just make a blanket statement. He said there's evidence to show. But you see, the one who, for me, commenting on this matter, came across as a person who is not consistent was the minority leader on this matter. Indeed, not long ago, there was a magazine that indicated that Ghana was a corrupt country. And I heard him accept wholeheartedly that statement and indeed indicated that it was true because former President Rawlings had said it. It was true because somebody had said it, and he was counting a number of people who said so. But in this particular case, he is challenging Alban Bagbin to produce evidence to show that Parliament was corrupt. So if you accept the claim that Ghana, the universal set, is corrupt, why would you then be contesting the claim that a subset in that universal set is corrupt, and you are now calling for evidence? Consistency in this matter for me is very key. Parliament as an institution would agree that there is the perception out there about the fact that it is not operating in ways that would ensure transparency. Parliament is aware that people indicate that they go in there, they do the bidding of other people, and do not apply the rules in such a way as to suit the Ghanaian people. I think that in this instant case, a committee set by Parliament will not be the best to do. I've heard Parliament calling people to come and give evidence. I think it's misplaced, because under our laws, the giver and the taker of bribery or corrupt practices are guilty of the offense. So I'm wondering who, in his right senses, would go and say, I once upon a time gave money to Mr. MP for this. So I think that's
another leg of the discussion.
I think that they should look at that aspect of it and see what they can do about it.
That's another leg of the discussion. And I want to ask Gabi whether you think, aside the questions of lobbying, if subsequently maybe we have the rules and that is allowed, if it is proper for the parliamentarians of Ghana to accept the current position that when a bill has to come to the House, they have to be invited by one body or the other, or the executive, so to speak, which is sponsoring the bill, to take them to one retreat or the other before they do it, and they get paid, you know, aside what they receive as their salaries or sitting allowances. Now, let's get a few of your text messages. Simon from Walwale says, these unsubstantiated bribery allegations leveled against our legislators has the tendency of denting the image of the country's parliament in the international community. Okay, maybe it's already done. So now from Ata Imoro from Wellency says, who says Bagbin is wrong? That's a question. In fact, he's more than right. Ghana today is being referred to as the quote-unquote Republic of Corruption. Africa Watch magazine. Parliament is an entity in Ghana. Hence, by logical deduction, some parliamentarians, if not all, are corrupt. Park Ganiu sends this one from Saviligo. He says, when will my country Ghana allow the truth to bounce no matter how bitter it is? Must we continue to be like ostriches, or do we need a spectacle to view similarly to Mr. Bagbin and PC appeal for it, and so on? Thank you for those messages. I'll return shortly to look at those of you who are sending some from California and so on. Now, my question.
Well, I think, to me, you can't answer the question without answering the question, where is the code of conduct? You know, because
in the absence of the code of conduct, Gabi, we have best practices, and our parliamentarians are aware of them.
But best practices come from code. You know, you have code of conduct, and then you go about it. Because, you know, there are two ways. They have to go and do their work. It has to be paid for. As a country, we have to ask ourselves, should it be paid for by Parliament or by government? South Africa has I think they have a template of a code of conduct for their parliament. It doesn't matter if it's paid by government in South Africa in that sense, you know, and you don't have to disclose it because it's accepted as the government will pay for it. You know, but like I said, it's not an issue about government paying for it, because when government pays for it, it's transparent. Everybody knows that government has paid for it, whether it's Parliament or a particular ministry. But what is the capacity of the parliamentarians to undertake
independent research or
Absolutely.
due diligence?
To me, that is very critical, because whether it's coming from the ministry, or I can't see it influencing members of parliament by giving them that amount of, unless of course there are different rates. You know, I mean, I managed to influence members of parliament who even had a contrary view to what I had on XTX without paying them anything. You know, so if you have the information, I'm talking about the minority, to a point, they thought STX was a good deal. But then we provided them with information, they listened to it, and then turn around.
When you say we, you're referring to Danko Institute?
Yes, yeah, I'm no longer there. But of course, once a founder. You know, so I think really it is the value of the information that members of parliament have. And look, if we focus on, because look, it is unforgivable that over 20 years after parliament working, we don't have a code of conduct for parliament. It's unforgivable. It's unforgivable. I mean, really, and it's not so difficult to find a code of conduct. It's Africa. Even if you have a DSTV subscription, a code, I think Regulation 7, you have to state it. You know, if the sponsorship by DSTV, you have to state it. I mean, and we need to have this in place. Once you have it in place, the MPs themselves will be guided by it. They know what they can do and what they can't do. And when you fall foul of it, we know how to deal with you. Let's get it in place. And in defense of Minority Leader, he said he is not aware of bribery. And I said, you know, the definition of bribery is a bit difficult. But he's saying that he doesn't doubt that because of his long standing in Parliament, Bagbin may have information that he's not aware, and Bagbin should bring further and better particulars. I think let's be fair with Minority Leader, but really
he's saying that why is it that he didn't ask Africa Watch magazine to bring further and better particulars, but accepted it?
I think no, his focus was that it is a bad publication. It puts us in the bad light. And I think really, of course, whether there are further and better particulars...
When it appeared to put the presidency in bad light or the government in bad light...
What I heard him
he was
say,
okay with it.
He wasn't okay with it. He was unhappy with the publication. And he made it absolutely clear. He said, no, this is bad for our image. You know, and of course, he was genuinely worried.
All right.
Would you not be?
Okay, I think that you are trying to embellish what he said. He was categorical and indicated that if other members of government have said the same thing, what is new about this publication? And so he agreed with it. That's the point he made.
All right.
He didn't ask further questions,
just
further and better parts, but he didn't say that.
Right.
Maybe it's in the publication.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, my tea is finished. Unfortunately, mine is not horrible. It's very nice. Gabi doesn't like the way you did his, so take the instructions and get it done properly for him. Okay. Now, Kuku, I don't know again if this is a good example. I mean, I have known that, for example, an entity maybe as small as multimedia, the Joynews room. If you attend an assignment by an event organizer and you demand or you are giving TNT and you accept it, it's an offense that can get you out of the system. It's sackable. I'm asking, why is that so? The thinking is that it has the potential of influencing you. The august House of Parliament, such an important arm of government, should it continue to take the so-called TNT? And we know that sometimes it's not really TNT, even though it's called TNT.
Yeah.
It's in hundreds and thousands of dollars.
Oh, wow.
But admittedly, that is not the same thing that Bagui was saying. Indeed, even in his own submissions, he drew a line between the two. So I am not going to box the two. Otherwise, we've discussed the subject matter many times, here and elsewhere. You recall not too long ago, when the RAG matter was raging, there was this point about the Public Accounts Committee having written a letter to RAG for sponsorship to Gambia. You recall, it became an issue. And at that point in time, the issue was that because some actions or conduct of the company was being investigated, it may amount to a conflict of interest for Parliament to get itself boxed in that situation. Then people even recalled some boreholes program that the company wanted to give to constituencies, which had been in the offering a year or so before even those controversies occurred. It became an issue.
Right.
And in the course of my research, I realized that many other committees of parliament write letters for sponsorship from various organizations, both local and international. And parliament itself as an institution also is dependent on some donor agencies for many of the infrastructural developments and things they were undertaking there. From that perspective, you can say that, look, looking at the character of parliament, we as a nation might as well try and resource parliament to the extent that it will become progressively less dependent on sources that could influence it. That's a subject matter I'm prepared to discuss. And I'm saying there is nothing new, even going to the Hansard. Parliament itself has been seized with those issues and have discussed it, have tried to make some, put in place some measures, except that they haven't really been, haven't crystallized in a complete manner. That is the extent from the badminton, and I'm a bit worried that there's an attempt to bring all these issues on board. I'm not naive to say there's no linkage between the two, but look, it's like saying that when the poor man steals and he tells the judge that, look, it's my economic circumstances that led me to steal, then he's purged of the guilt. And in any case, rich men also steal. So the bottom line is this: if there's evidence, and I'm glad, but I mean beyond his initial attempts to dodge, has now come clean.
Right.
To say that there is evidence, he will provide the evidence. So please, that is critical, because you know what? Even the provision of that evidence may help to resolve some of these problems we are talking about. In looking at the evidence, it may throw light on where and how things are being done.
Okay.
So first and foremost, the honorable member should be subjected to strict proof
By
the Committee of Parliament, Privileges Committee.
you think that is competent enough to do this job?
You know, let me tell you why. They may not come out with anything that you may find desirable. Just like the appeal for written, as I'm saying.
Right.
It's blank space. I saw blank space. So that can grow cynicism relative to what Parliament can do. But there's a catch. If you are a member of Parliament, and a senior one at that, and you are summoned by this committee to appear before you don't appear, there are sanctions. Now, if you appear and you are unable to substantiate, there are sanctions. It helps in the sense that at least if he's unable to provide evidence before that committee, that record is public. It will be published. And we will know that an honorable member peddled, and I'm going to be very charitable, an obvious untruth, which had the potential to denigrate the integrity of the whole house. That's why the fact that he didn't say all MPs. The fact that he didn't mention names makes it very dangerous. Every other MP is a suspect out there. So that is why, because see, an independent commission, which commission? which independent committee of inquiry is going to summon him? And if he comes and he says, I won't cooperate, what else? What happens? But within Parliament, if he comes fair, he provides evidence, it helps us to move forward. If he comes, he doesn't produce evidence, it will be made public, and he would have lost something in terms of integrity. Parliament at least would have purged itself of some of the debt. Look, we have instances. In 1981, Dr. Liman, then president, at a public rally, made an allegation against a member of the minority, in this case Dr. Johnson Furata, that he had gone to the UK, stayed with Henry Jabba, collected some monies, and had come back home to try and force a motion in the House for AFIC convicts and things to be redeemed or freed. And it became a huge controversy. The matter was referred to the Committee of Privileges. If you check the Hansard of 20th May 1981, the report is there. At the end of the day, the committee established that there was no substance to the allegation that the president had made. It was a precedent. And there was so much debate in Parliament, but bottom line, Dr. Joseph Furata said, fine, now at least on record, they couldn't drag the president before the Committee of Privileges. That was a limitation they couldn't overcome. But at least public record showed that the allegation, a very serious allegation made by a very serious personality and in the public domain, had no substance.
Right.
It was a cure of a certain mischief.
You support. You went to court and got his stuff.
Right. You support the school of thought that says that this will be self-serving, and so they ought not to be seen to constitute themselves into judges in their and sit and adjudicate their own matter. what is the alternative? We are aware that Shraj, for example, suggests that it may border on questions of conflict of interest also. And you know what the law is, per the Atani judgment, that there ought to be an identifiable individual who makes that complaint before Shraj will be mandated to look into that matter. What is the way out?
I think Parliament is capable of referring the matter to Shraj, for Shraj to do some diligent work on it. And also, if Parliament washes its hands off in terms of the investigation, whatever results may come out may be seen as more credible than if Parliament itself conducts the investigation. But you see, let's not behave like the proverbial ostrich who would bury his head in the sand, and because it doesn't see anybody, it doesn't know that the rest of its body is being seen. You see? It is not everything which is true that can be proven. And that's a fact.
So we journalists, we are entitled to peddle anything we want to peddle. And you subject us to street proof all the time.
I'm coming. Take for instance, when we were children, you followed your friend to the mother's kitchen, and he took a piece of meat from the mother's soup and ate. You go and tell them, your friend's mother that your son has picked the meat. Then you say, proof. Are you going to cut the stomach open and bring the meat?
Why would you do that? You didn't get a piece of the meat.
Why would I report to them?
Oh, Amaliba.
So you see, it's not everything which is true. Because let's be fair. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. And I'm sure this is what happened to Alban Babin. Alban did not envisage that there will be a day like this that he will be called upon to account for what he's going to say. So he may not be taking pictures of the bribery allegations. So this issue, and I'm saying this to counter Kokubako's insistence on strict proof. Strict proof. Yeah, look, there's a perception out there. Perception is as equally important as the reality. So how would Parliament, this is an opportunity for Parliament to cleanse itself of that perception.
Without knowing the truth.
No.
Your suggestion is that Parliament should now lodge a complaint with Shraj.
With Shraj, and allow Shraj to go on with the investigations on this matter.
What would he must bring something?
No, he would appear. He will appear before it. And Bagbin, I'm happy you have a writing here. I've seen it here. If you could borrow it.
Sure.
I am ready to defend MP's bribery claim, Bagbin. So he's not running away. And so if he's that ready, I think that he should be putting together his dossier to go and meet Shraj. I think that would be the proper body to undertake this type of exercise.
Godwin, should Parliament do it itself or some other body do it?
There are two ways. The Privileges Committee is there to determine certain issues. And clearly, I mean, in my opinion, this is one of such issues that it has a mandate to handle.
I thought their job was restricted to disciplinary action of conduct that was, you know,
but if,
insulting to the Parliament.
So suppose
privilege, contempt of Parliament,
right?
And this could amount to that.
So suppose Honorable Bagbin is unable to provide evidence. That would then have been a basis for him to be disciplined in respect of what he has done. But the other aspect has to do with courting public confidence in the process. And that is where I believe Mr. Malva and then the others are coming from. That for the public to have confidence that the issue will be looked at properly, then it is advisable that an external body like Shraj or any other body with similar jurisdiction can handle it. But
and also because the precedent shows that they may not do anything about it after all. Because you look at the PC appeal for a matter.
Well, I think that we should be able to distinguish the two situations.
What's it to be distinguished?
In this particular context, I heard Bagbin on another platform say that he has evidence and that when he comes, he will provide evidence. And he even made mention of certain individuals who had said that they did that. And he said the individuals are alive. So this is clearly a case where the person alleging the issue sees that he has the means or the material to prove the allegation. But appear for this thing, I can't remember, but you can correct me. He's saying that he's ready to prove. I mean, he said that, and I remember he was being interviewed. I mean, what do you have? And he said that there was corruption and bribery was taken.
We don't have a report from Parliament saying that he was unwilling to cooperate, and because of that they were unable to go on with it.
Yeah,
well,
but no communication to that effect.
Well, but
that's what I'm hearing. But no communication, formal communication to that effect.
But I mean, Bagwin is more forthright, I mean, now than Mr. Pierre-Fore was then.
Okay.
So the two situations should be distinguished.
Right.
But sometimes let's be careful not to kill the zeal of people who, belonging to a group, would want to fight ills within the group. Because I feel that...
Where is the example?
No.
Mr. Bagwin has been in Parliament for how many, God knows, years?
Because I
and
think
where was the zeal?
I think
even
that
with appeal for rating,
I
he
think
came
that
in and
don't
made
forget,
a statement.
don't forget where Amaba is coming from.
Because you see, who is better placed to discuss or exercise ills within a group that you belong to than the person himself?
So why had it been
So
hiding the evidence all this time?
Such people like Bagwin
Where was
are
the
an
evidence?
endangered species. Because when we do that, people will go underground and will not want to fight ills within the group.
I see.
And I think that we should encourage people like that.
Right.
But he must prove his point.
Samson, I think
He must prove his point.
Bagben has been encouraged enough. I think really, whether it's Shraj or the Privileges Committee, whatever committee, it's about evidence. It's about evidence. Bottom line. Because, I mean, if you go with evidence to a parliamentary committee, and then they somehow push it aside, of course it will become public.
Sure.
So I'm not so bothered about where it is head. I think Parliament is capable to deal with this matter. And I think we can achieve the two. What Kweku is asking for, that is there evidence to the allegation? That is the first step. But beyond that, Parliament itself can look at the bigger picture and say this and that ought to be addressed. Because the issues raised by Bagben goes also beyond the specific allegation. So you do the specific allegation, and then you look at the, if you like, the weaknesses within the system.
It is the attempt to hide the Bagwin thing.
No.
Being that one, that worries me.
But they must deal with the evidence. They must deal with the evidential matter first. And then, because I know there have been issues where, you know, the Parliament can be said, look, you had leadership of Parliament, both sides, being flown by STX to Dubai, drinking champagne and doing all. And they came back and they were mightily impressed. And we're going to go ahead with it. But then when they were presented with contrary evidence, they were prepared to look that way.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's also the capacity issue and the rest of it. But let's deal with it. Let's deal with all of that.
But
look at the specific allegation and go beyond that.
This issue is gaining it's becoming positive to Parliament, because they've already gone out to look for their code of conduct, which was in a cabinet guarding that.
It was work in progress.
You know, so they have already gone there because it has kicked them in the bottom. So something
I thought Bagwin is the man who was leading that.
Exactly. So they've gone back to
didn't
it.
need this allegation unsubstantiated to trigger what you are talking about.
The platform has not been given yet.
Okay, gentlemen, let me share a few of the messages coming from our viewers and listeners. Frederick Lesson in California says the Parliament of Ghana isn't just corrupt, but they are bullied and turned into a rubber stamp house. Some of the debates they have in the House is just ridiculous. Significant bills such as Right to Information Bill, Disability Act and others are shelved for debate on GMOs. Jesse Boakon in Mamprobi says any brown envelope in public institution is not a gift but pure bribe. Honorable Alban Bagwin is not the first person to admit MPs take bribe. Corruption under the current administration is worse. Al-Hassan Muhammad in Nandom writes, I think in Ghana we talk too much. It is time for us to walk our talk. You didn't identify yourself. You say there is a vast difference between lobbying and bribery. Lobbying is when facts and ideas are brought to the fore with the intention of convincing one. But bribery is simply selling your conscience for personal gain. It's called the Judas effect. Well, and that is where I am reliably informed that Abdul Malik Okubako is presently is trending on social media for saying, be careful not to create a forest of trees and then hide the bagbin tree. Thank you very much. We take a quick break at this point, and I will return to deal with Nana Addo's return from where? Is it Achia Mountains? We'll come to discuss his revelation and what is up for him in 2016 without a free SHS message. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis show, and it's brought to you by a candid sponsorship of Lipton Tea, that is inspiration flowing from nature. Errata Motors, that's the best vehicles at the best prices. If you're looking for new or slightly used cars, just go to Errata Motors at Lagos Avenue opposite Body Talk near the GT Bank, East Legon, or call them 0244-445-268 or 0277-486-800, and they will attend to you. It's just a phone call away. And it's also brought to you by Star Assurance, the endless appreciation for their superior insurance packages by their dear customers, and Star Assurance, the prestigious CIMG General Insurance Company of the year 2012, and it has once again put them above every Ghanaian or general insurance company in Ghana in the 2012 Ghana Club 100 rankings. This is to you, their dear customers. You made it happen, and that is why they are dedicating themselves to continue to offer you cutting-edge insurance policies that give you peace of mind and power to achieve your set goals. They work to protect your properties and businesses when the expected and unexpected happens. They have branches all over the country, and they are focused on building a partnership that lasts a lifetime. So talk to Star Assurance on 0302-240-632 or visit them at starassurance.com. Star Assurance, that is your solid partner. MTN, everywhere you go. Now we say welcome to the new world. Now we move on to discuss Nana Akufo-Addo. He's back in the country. He's got a known secret, but it's a revelation that will be made on the 20th of this month. And you may have witnessed his triumphant entry to Osei Krom. What was that all about? I'm asking a question. What was that all about? And is Otumfuo his landlord or what? And did you check the crowd? Did you check the crowd that, you know, greeted him in Kumasi? I doubt the president might not get that crowd at this point in time of Dumso, especially in Kumasi. And question is, why go to the Otumfuo, and what is it all about? Again, the question is he, why say he's going to tell us what God has revealed to him on the 20th, when we already know the obvious, that he's going to go for it? And will he make success without a free SHS policy? Before we look at that, the NPP, a few things have happened in the party now. Paul Afoko has been cleared of all the allegations that were made against him. Now he can now contest as one of the candidates for the chairmanship. There were also allegations that were leveled against Jacob Echebelamte. We have picked information that he has also been cleared of all of those allegations, so he's now also good to go. I don't know. What do you know?
Well, I know part, and you are telling me.
Yes, I've been telling you off air what we know, that he's been cleared. The report is ready.
Well, I think really, first of all, on the Paul Afoko matter, I think the committee has come out to say that, first of all, I think allegation was made without any prima facie evidence attached to it, and they did what they could. They haven't received any information to support the allegation or to contradict the allegation, and in the absence of that, the person is cleared.
Is it not rather the case that they had rather received the dossier from the UK that clears him, that he's not been involved in any such
well,
bad matter?
I can go by what the committee said.
Right.
What we do know is that it was a bare allegation. I mean, no supporting evidence was attached to it.
Right.
So they had to somehow search for evidence. They haven't received anything.
That was only for briefly. Tell me about Jake.
The Jake matter, you telling me, and I think if it's clear, to me, is in the right direction, because I think, you know, a lot of allegations are thrown about. I saw at a very close range what happened in the 2012 elections. More logistics were given out across the party than in any other election. In terms of, there were more motorbikes than 2008, when the party was supposed to be in office. There were more bicycles, more cars. Every constituency had pickups, more money to parliamentary candidates. You know, so when you see this happening, and this Jake's administration, they never came to office and there was money there. All these things had to be created within the period that they were in office. So when you see the effort that went into that election, and then people will reduce all that to some allegations. Oh, of course, there are always issues with elections, but I think Jake's administration shouldn't be reduced to the fact that people think that he had somehow. So if it's been cleared, I think it's the right way. I think it deserves more than being
Hold on
reduced.
briefly. Let me take a minute from Kokubako on this one, because the last time the issue came up, and we mentioned Kennedy Japan, who took the matter to the committee to investigate, and also even threatened that if Jake were allowed to stand, he was going to personally, you know, vote, is it how much, $20 million to campaign against him, or whatever, do anything, whatever it is. And you said we should forget about that. You didn't even want to comment about that. Hearing that Jake has been cleared, Afoko has been cleared, good for them.
One first. You remember day one, I expressed some disbelief in the allegation, and also, but in principle supported the need for an inquiry, whatever the nature of the allegation, because I thought that was what the party's own constitution demanded. I was unhappy with Fuku's own public reactions and utterances, and I made that very clear. But you see, there's something that I have found out. I'm just going to proceed in a very cautious manner. I was able to intercept a copy of the petition or complaint or whatever it was. Very sketchy. And when I finished reading it, I told one or two friends that I know in the party that, look, assuming without admitting that even if Akufo had been busted and convicted, I was wondering if 10 years hadn't lapsed. And so really, what was the party wasting its time on all those? I made all those points. Right. And this thing wasn't even talking of conviction, really, it's incarceration. There's an extension between incarceration and conviction. So I thought there was something wrong. But what is now worrying me, and if I'm wrong, may everybody forgive me, I am not sure that Interpol, Accra, that's Ghana, has not communicated something to the party. Oh, wow. I am not sure. I intercepted this document. You see, and it's here. Restricted, you see, of course, but this is an interception. From Interpol Manchester to Interpol Accra, with all the details here. Then it says, dear colleagues, please see below for a response to your request dated 17 February 2014. Please be informed that we have searched our records, name and date of birth only, for the above named subject and returned a negative result. Oh. The name is Paul Awentami Afoko, born 31st August 1954. I'm sure we are talking of the same person. If you require anything further, please do not hesitate to contact us. Many thanks and kind regards. Interpol Manchester, National Crime Agency, telephone numbers, everything there. I am aware that the party wrote to Interpol Accra to do the search. Right. Am I right?
Absolutely.
This is a response from Interpol Manchester to Interpol Accra, is it being suggested that Interpol Accra has not forwarded this correspondence to the party? I have my doubts. I think this has reached the party.
So
you see, I have a problem.
If this has reached the party, then they've been very unfair.
I have a problem.
If that's the case.
Well, that's why I'm proceeding cautious. I have a problem with the communication that was put out there relative to the clearance. Without reference to this document,
which is important.
Yes, so I think the party must come again. Okay. If I'm wrong, I will apologize.
And then briefly again, Jake, please, shall we move on so that we come to deal with
from day one, you know, I had a problem. Perhaps it was a 20 million thing that was introduced that got my goat.
Right.
But fortunately, if the committee has investigated the issue of monies that he received and didn't deal with them well, or motorbikes and things, it's cleared. It's good that when allegations are made, those who make the allegations are given the opportunity to substantiate. And if they are unable to do so, it's good. In fact, it's in the larger interest of the individuals who were accused as well as the party that is done fairly and justly. Yeah.
Ebi, do you have a comment to share?
Yeah, on Nafoko, from day one, I knew that it was an attempt, a grand scheme to derail his campaign processes. And he was the only candidate in terms of the chairmanship who was campaigning with an albatross around his neck. Which was that he has not been cleared. So I think that with the clearing now, it set the stage, but at least the damage has been caused a little bit. But I'm sure
he may have gained.
If you are a front runner, you will continue to be a front runner. It may backfire, and I'm sure it will backfire. Yes. The other thing has to do with
the Jake one. Maybe we should be looking up to, what's the name, Kanye Japan, raising his $20 million and starting his new thing against Jake.
Yes, I think that what he indicated, where I understood him to be saying that if Jake wins the elections, he would form an entirely new party. I think that he has not been able to prove his case. I saw some motorbikes being parked and they were on the front pages of newspapers. So if Jake has been cleared too, that's good. Let's go for the elections. But I disagree with Gabi when he said that this executive, the current executive, are those who have come in with nothing and they single-handedly mobilize resources. I think that that's what you said. You said the import of it.
Okay.
I think that it is not true. They would have come to meet some money, and if they have not been able to deliver the party to get the victory, I think that they should give way to new people.
I see.
But something. Let me just make a comment. I'm very, very disturbed about this communication from Kweku. And I think the party should come out to it, because you know the information out there now is as if, well, we hit a blank.
Yes.
So we are letting him go through.
Yeah.
Maybe this document has not reached them.
It hasn't reached them. No, but I think it's for the integrity of the committee, and also for our focus, because look, at the end of the day, he could be your chairman, and you could have this hanging out there. So it's important that they come out clearly and say the information that's like Kweku said, maybe they haven't received it. But if they have, they should come out and be categorical that they did not.
Well, the information is already out, so it may not hang out there anymore. If anybody wants to use it, then I don't know for what purposes that they would use it, apart from mischievous propaganda.
And my point to you, Amaliba, please, was that as far as I know, more logistics went out there for campaigning than in any other election.
Thank you.
It doesn't mean that certain things didn't go wrong. That point is made. So you cannot blame whatever happened
there's a side to this that I want you to address. Now, there are people who, for the purposes of the election, and we know that in this country, politics, there's a lot of mudslinging. Should they be allowed to go scot-free after they make the vacant allegations? They are unable to substantiate them. They are not proving to be true, even at the very first level of what you call prima facie. And we investigate, and in the end we say, okay, they should go. In a court of law, you would have been slapped with some, cost.
But do we know the person who brought it?
You see, I think the parties themselves will have to set a certain standard.
The name is there
for receiving
There's a David Jesse.
Okay.
So that, I mean, if you are making an allegation
of Accra and UK, a bit not to no further better particulars.
So it wasn't garbage.
Okay. Go on.
So when you're making an allegation, it should not just be a statement that Godwin has done X or has failed to do Y. I mean, there must be reasonable facts which on the face, if nothing is, I mean, brought in to contradict.
Objective proof.
Exactly. Will really suggest that the act has been committed. So that even at the administrative level, you should be able to look at it and say that, look, we are not entertaining this.
Right.
This could be a way of discouraging such, I mean, frivolous, so to speak, allegations. But you see, in the Afoko case, as Gabi has said, and then maybe others to have said, already there was that perception that, I mean, a group within the party at the very highest level, I mean, didn't want him to contest. Now, if there is information...
The same way with Jake. That's why there was a complaint about him. So
if there is information that the allegations are false, and then you don't come out and base your decision on that information, then it goes further to reinforce that particular perception. And as Mr. Baku has said, or Gabi, what if he wins and becomes the chairman of the party, and the opponents then pick it up and start running away with it? You now will have your back pushed to the wall and you start fighting back.
Right.
So the parties, I mean, across board, will do themselves good if they set standards very high for receiving allegations against their members.
Right. Gabi, Nanado is in.
Yeah.
After almost a year of being in London and seeking the face of God. 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Good. Now he's back. And don't we know that he will contest?
Well, I think we will find out on Thursday. Yes, I'm not too sure whether you saw the face of God and God then told you he's contesting. I mean, I can't claim to have seen. But he is coming out on Thursday, and there are indications that he will respond to not just what he wants, but also what's perhaps the sentiment. I think he's consulting widely, and I believe widely means not just the party. You have to go beyond the party, and I'm sure he will take a decision in the interest of the party and in the interest of the nation.
He's literally being forced to take it again.
I really don't. Look,
your members across the length and breadth of this country have been visiting him, calling upon him. In Kumasi, when he got there, the placards read, "No Nanado, no 2016."
Well, it's all part of it, if you like. But I think, to me, the most important thing is that, first of all, you can't want it and go for it if people don't want you. Okay? And then you feel that you have the strength, you have the energy, regardless of all the disappointment, and you've done it for 40 years. So I'm sure he feels ready to go. That's if he's going to say he's going to go. But fortunately for us, you have a political party that has the biggest electoral college in Africa, about 120,000 people. And if you can have a sampling of 120,000 out of maybe 13, 14 million voters saying that this is the man we want, or that is the woman we want, or whatever, it is an indication of, if you like, your own popularity. I hear some people saying that, well, he may be popular in the party, but not in the nation. If you think you are more popular than him outside the party, then run as an independent candidate and see whether you can win. You know, so clearly, because of course you go on the ticket of a party. You know, so I think really, let's hear what he has to say
on Thursday.
Yeah, but then you mentioned...
It may be trivial, but did his plane touch down on the Kumasi airport?
Touchdown?
No, I don't. Did he? Is that the place he arrived from London?
Oh no, he came to Accra, and you know, part of the consultation. There's a lot of Ashanti region is huge. It's really, if you like, the heartbeat of the party. There's absolutely no two ways about it. There are a lot of party elders there. There are party elders elsewhere, and the rest of it. And there are certain. I know it's been quiet consultation, but of course you are coming to Kumasi as part of a consultation. The Ashanti Regional Party decides to make it a big show because Nana didn't actually announce that he was coming to Ashanti region, and it happens this way. And I think really
so the headline
is a sign.
The headline
of perhaps
he sought Lotumfo's blessing it's misleading.
I think it's misleading. What I've noticed about him, wherever he goes, you know, first of all, he has a relationship with the Asante Hene. Secondly, it is not like coming to Eastern region where you may find it, or going to certain regions you may find it difficult which traditional ruler to go to. But Ashanti, we all know, you have Asante Hene. You know, and then also it's important that there have been some sort of, if you like, negative things been said, that the party even had to come out after the election petition. So I think it was important he made that step to show that, hey, you know, we are still together, and that sort of thing. So I think really it was an important PR work as well, apart from the fact that they have a personal relation, apart from the fact that Asante man and Asante Hen are one, and if you go there, show the maximum respect. So I think really it's all in good spirit.
Maybe there are those who say, what? You are choosing him ahead of your election. You're supposed to have an election to determine who becomes your flag bearer. But already it looks like anybody should be afraid to contest him, because obviously he would be standing for the flag bearership again.
Let me remind you of Professor Mills before he speaks. We know what happened.
It is not true, absolutely, that they are choosing him before he runs. He wants it. They are also choosing him. I disagree with those who say that he's going to consult people, and he's going to consult Asante Hene, and he's consulting people to see whether he should go.
He did not consult Asante Hene. He went to. I don't think he came out with that.
I disagree with people who say that. I'm not saying I disagree with you.
Right.
You see, before you even do those consultations, you must have want the thing. If you don't want something, you won't even get up from your room and walk out to consult anybody. So the two coincide. Yes, I've seen people line up in his house asking him to stand. I've seen that. I've also seen him also wanting it. So you see, I will be shocked to my bone marrow if next week Nana announces that he's not going to partake in this exercise. Indeed, his own spokesperson, and he's the only spokesperson, he's the only one who can speak for Nana. He alluded to that. Mustafa Hamid.
Absolutely.
Yes. Indicated that 99% of the chance is that Nana Akufo-Addo would announce that he's going to stand. So there's nothing fishy, there's
1% is very strong.
Anything about it.
And he says that is a response to the groundswell of the call on him to lead the party.
Let me use their own party. I remember Nana Akumia, he's not here. But I also remember that Nana Akumia, when he was going to resign or leave, not to contest again, there were a groundswell of people who came to him to say, Nana, come back. But he refused. So I'm saying that you must accept my, my logic.
Yeah.
That
nobody
before
can
you even say that people are calling you to come and stand, you must have wanted. That's why you are even discussing it. If not, you throw it somewhere. Yeah. So I think that, look, he has come.
He sought the face of God. That was the most important thing.
We all seek the face of God. But you see, this God we are talking about is a God who will speak to you in ways that you will understand. I'm sure that when he went and then had his consultation, that kind of message that he wanted by God was given to him, which is that he should come and stand. So I think that there's nothing new about it. Indeed, if Nana did not want to stand, I can tell you, the day that the election petition was over, he would have announced that day his resignation from active politics. So I don't begrudge him. I just hope that he will have the strength to go around to do the campaign and then present himself to the people of this country.
I see. Abdul Malik.
Well, I've just a little bit of information. When is the primaries, presidential primaries?
It will be set by the new executives that are coming, but it should be before the end of this year.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay. Well, this is a personal thing. I haven't had a chance to interact with Nana since he came. I haven't had a chance. But, you know, I always had a problem with the series of premature endorsements that some party stalwarts and leaders were doing. I always had a problem with it in principle. I thought he didn't need it. It was just superfluous, and sometimes had a negative effect. And so if the calendar for the party presidential primaries is a bit far off, I would advise that there's no need for a declaration of what he's going to do on 20th of March. He doesn't need any head start. If it comes to the competition, he doesn't really need any head start at all.
Can I raise a practical problem?
Yes, tell me.
The practical problem is that you told the party, even immediately after before he went abroad, people were urging him to stand. He was abroad. People are getting in touch with him every day. He's back. Every day people are consulting, people are telling you what they want. You need to, and it's a practical issue. You need to say something.
Say something, not meaning, yes, no. I am a candidate, an aspirant for
you are not a candidate until...
Yeah, that's what's aspirant.
Yes, but I'm saying that, but so you need to say something as to whether you are willing to run or not.
Well,
so that's...
But that's just a matter of personal, my view.
No, I get your point.
As I said, I haven't had the chance to interact with him. He left a message on my voicemail. I haven't actually responded. But that is my view. Because if the calendar is far away, then announcing it, you can imagine the momentum that his announcement, if it's in affirmative, would unleash. And when is the National Executive primaries elections? I think somewhere in April.
In April.
It can, it will become the main thing relative to the party's own programs and consciousness and mobilization and everything. It could, quote unquote, be disruptive of the party calendar for executive.
Is that not why he's sending a warning ahead of time that no one should use his name or his photograph?
Yeah, but that was good. I was coming to all those things. Those things, but they should even have been made earlier. Those statements should have been made earlier. It could still have been made while he was outside, because some of the leaders were being opportunistic. Some were outrightly and nakedly opportunistic in going out there to use his name the way it was used.
Is there a candidate who is going out there and not mentioning another name?
Yeah, but that's why I said that should have been done.
You can't limit it to the incumbents. I'm telling you for a fact. Every candidate going out there is making reference to
it was opportunistic, bottom line. Was unprincipled.
Yeah.
Was unfair.
But I'm saying it's happening across
was unjust. And I thought an earlier admonition may have been in order. Or whatever it is, it's never too late in politics. So for me, that's my caution. But as I say, perhaps when one interacts with him, he may be able to convince me as to why a March 20th declaration in affirmative may be desirable. But candidly, I would have expected that in his particular case, he needs no time and space to campaign to win the primaries if he decides to go.
May I also add that and he has gone through this debate in terms of the fact that
I
wouldn't know. He's gone through all
interventions as far as Kuku's presentation is concerned. Now, I don't know what you think. If you feel that it is not good enough for internal democracy in the manner in which things are being done now, when there are other people who are clearly interested in the flag bearership.
Well, there are some views
who have expressed that they will run.
They have.
A lot of people have already expressed that
they need time and space.
There are some views out there that people who want to contest Nanado are being harassed, so to speak, or intimidated, into giving up their, or not expressing it. But there is also, evidence out there that the rank and file of the members of the party, support Nana very strongly.
They do it publicly without any equivocation.
Exactly. So, in this particular context, where he's being, shall I say, ambivalent about it, he is not saying I will go and he's not saying I will not go. That creates a bit of confusion within the party. And I am sure it is that confusion which he may want to clarify without necessarily saying that others should not contest me. Because, his declaration one way or the other can give clarity to the situation and people can make choices whichever way they want to. So, looked at from that perspective, I don't see anything wrong if he comes out to say that, well, this is my position on it.
Analyzing from where you say there are those who believe, and I think that's a very minority view though, and maybe coming from the opposition side, those who are opposed to the party, that, you know, he should give up at this point.
Why should he give up? He is the one supposed to decide.
That it appears that now the applause is loudest and is the best time
for him to strike,
to give in, as say it's that ambition is over.
Oh, I mean, let's say that if I'm wrong, I mean, I can be corrected, but he has never believed that he ought not to have been the president now, because he has always believed that, of course, legally he has not been declared the winner, but he thinks that if certain things were done properly, quote unquote, he should have been the winner.
In the last elections, yeah.
In the last 2 elections, which he lost. So he still has that confidence.
More than last election. I don't think he didn't contest the previous.
Okay, thank you.
So,
so I mean, there is still that hope in him that, look, there is still the chance to test and to prove my point. So that may be what is driving him, I mean, into this election.
There are those who say that President Mohammed's announcement of the free senior high school has dealt such a hefty blow to his chances.
How? Because I don't see how that is. Because if you look at his message in 2008 and then the message in 2012, I don't know if there have not been changes, because there will always be something that, I mean, you can identify and then hold on to, I mean, as your flagship point in a particular election.
But the one thing that he held on to in 2008 and in 2012 is now being taken away from him, so to speak.
He should be happy that the vision that he had for the country is now...
He says he is, but we are talking about politics, looking for votes.
Well, I think that he can still make a point. If you listen to his comments, I mean, I read it from the press, and I hope that was what he said, that at least there is now consensus on the issue. And in one instance, he also said it is good. Now, it is not a partisan comment. I mean, if you look at it as it is still possible, if he wants to hold on to it, to make a point out of it. But I don't know how exactly he will do that. I mean, if he makes a point, for example, that, well, my opponent on the other side discredited the point, and now they are adopting it, it means that there is something good in it, and that if he's given a chance, he can even do better, being a quote-unquote the originator of it. Of course, but I know the other group will not believe.
Gabi, what is going to be his trump card, for example, if he did announce that he was going to contest? He said that Ghana needs a leadership that thinks of the next generation and not the next elections. What is he thinking about the next generation?
I think really, he's been consistent in terms of the need to build the human resource base of the country. He's been very consistent on that, and he's been consistent also that we need to transform the economy.
And you are certain that he will have a message beyond free SHS?
I think first of all, his focus on education remains critical to our national development, and I can't see such a major shift. But in every election, you look at also the circumstances. It could be that also corruption will be a major issue now, so that will come on board. And I can't see him just jettisoning free SHS, because, you know, even what has been is being, I was going to say implemented, but what is being said to be about to be implemented. There are fundamental differences between what he said. While he's been consistent, if you look at the 2008 manifesto, it says that guaranteed access for all children of school-going age to free quality education at the basic school level. This will be extended to cover senior high school education as well. This is from 2008, free quality education. He brought that back in 2012. It resonated far beyond what he did in 2008. In 2016, looking at what the NDC manifesto said, that they were going to limit free secondary education to the community's secondary education they were building. If you look at their 2012 manifesto.
No.
Oh, I can read it to you, please. Let me read it to you.
No.
You know, I will read it to you.
Read it.
It says, provide
provide capitation grant. Now, first of all, construct 200 new community day senior high schools across the country with emphasis on districts where there are no such schools. 2, provide capitation grant to all students in the new community day senior high schools to be built by government. So the NDC itself...
Capitation grant is different from free.
Oh, please, I'm coming. This is what is
So
in your
it's not-
manifesto.
no, you are
in terms of
misrepresenting
where you were going to give grants, as we know at the basic level, okay? And you were limiting that to just the community, it's even discrimination, to just the ones that you were going to build.
No.
So what you are saying now is nowhere consistent with what you put in the 20
says that's your interpretation.
You are
That's my-
manipulating it. That's a mutilation of what
So
the
why
manifesto
don't you
said.
demutilate it and tell us what is the interpretation of this?
Capitation grant.
Okay.
Capitation
But there were no
grant is
mention of
different from
free
free SHS.
Okay, let's not get into
In
that.
fact, last
Let's
week we did
not
that
get
here.
into that.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I think you handled it.
And at the same time,
as
they are taking away subsidies for utilities prices, for utilities at the schools. You have taken that away, and you are telling us that you are giving them free SHS. So the students themselves will end up paying it, whether it's a day or boarding. And that's already there. Utility price for schools were being absorbed by government. Now you are saying that schools should pay for it themselves.
Have you checked your facts?
He's asking if that has been implemented.
Has that been implemented?
No, but that's the policy.
Check your facts.
That's your policy.
There's one thing I wanted to ask
That's your policy.
Godwin, and let me tell you this: a very senior, member of this republic, felt, and that's a private discussion, felt that when Nana arrived in a very, serious, beautiful democracy, he would have, gone to see the president. They would have had, they would have sat around some tea and had some discussion, rather than the focus being visiting and seeing a chief.
Well, sometimes people see things differently. There would have been nothing wrong with that. But you also, and I'm not sure Nana would have jettisoned that idea if it had, crossed his mind. But you also need to understand the political strategy in it, because he knows that this is the stronghold of the party, and he needs to make a case of his popularity. So, in the very early stages of his return, he should want to see that. He may not have that much of it in Accra or maybe in some other region, but in Kumasi at least he's very sure that he can have it. But he can also go to Kumasi to make that point without necessarily without having to see the Asante Hime. So, normally there will be a number of points on the table, but the one that the person thinks is best is what he takes. So I think that's a good thing, but it might not have crossed his mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I wanted to get Kokubako's, quick point on that. But before that, let's go to the phone lines and speak to the Honorable Ayikwe Otu, a former Attorney General and Minister for Justice, and he presently, you may know, is the man who is in charge of the NPP's constitutional affairs. Right. Honorable Ayikwe Otu, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning.
Right. You've been part of the committee that dealt with the allegations against, is it Afoko and Jake?
Yeah, Afoko.
Right. The question has come up that there's a certain document from Interpol, from the UK, and sent to their Ghanaian counterpart, clearing him. And yet your statement that you issued announcing to the public that he's been cleared of any such wrongdoing as was leveled against him did not include this. Is it a case that this document has not yet reached you?
I do not think that we had said that he had not been cleared. I think what we said was that the oral reportage is that Afoko is not known to the police.
Right.
But we do not have a written report because according to the director of Interpol, he has no authority to sign any such letter. In fact, he directed us to present a letter to the Director General of CID Police Headquarters, and that we should only give him a copy.
So if at the end of the day the report comes, it is only the Director General of CID who can sign the report or our copy and give it to us. That has not been done. But in order not to delay the process anymore, we told him that this is the verbal report we have and that is free or is cleared to go on. So why is it being suggested that we had a report and that maybe deliberately we shelved the report? We have not received it, and it's rather surprising.
Right, but Mr. Ekwetu, to be fair to the panelists here, Abdul Malik Kwekuba, especially who brought out this document, he did say that his suspicion is that this document may not have reached your offices.
Oh, okay, okay. Let me put in that caveat, because it was somebody who drew my attention to it. I have not been listening, I have not been watching, I just put it on so I can see you clearly, you're green and all that. But I never listened.
Okay.
But somebody drew my attention to it. Now that's what he's saying. That it's surprising to him that he has a copy and we are saying we don't have a copy.
Okay.
So I should call him. You know the reportage.
Can we clear this briefly? It has not come to you officially, but are you aware of the presence of this particular document, and why did you not include its content in your communique?
That is exactly the explanation I'm giving to you, that we were asked to route our complaint through the Director General CID Police Headquarters, and that they would in turn authorize Interpol to work on the matter. So when the report comes to Interpol, they have to send it to the Director General of the CID for him to issue a report, official report on the matter. That was not done. The Director of Interpol just called me on the phone and said he has received the report, which is negative. That same day, we decided to act on it, even when we had not seen this final report. So it is never true that this report had been sent to us. And we take a very serious exception to it. Because how come that the report which is yet to reach us is already in the public domain? All kinds of, inferences can be drawn, like you are saying. As if we have it and we are suppressing. Why? If we wanted to suppress it, then we could have as well told him that we did not receive the report at all, so the position remains the same. But we went out of our way and said, look, we trust the police. If this is what they have told us, let's go along with that information.
Right.
And then as a result, you are cleared.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. But briefly, in some 2 minutes, can you tell us, you have been Attorney General before, what would you like to be the approach to resolving the Albam-Bagbing bribery allegation against MPs?
Well, you see, it is said that whatever happens in Parliament is a closed book. We tried at a point to apply for an injunction in court to stop Parliament from going ahead with the creation of, new constituencies. What the Supreme Court said was that whatever happens in Parliament is a closed book, and that it is only after they finish dealing with those matters that perhaps if anybody thinks that they've gone against the Constitution, then you can bring an action. But you can't act on it whilst the matter is pending. So currently, if Parliament is going through its own routes in trying to find out what might have gone wrong, I do not think that if there's anything wrong with that. It is for them to use their own procedures, their standing orders to deal with the matter.
The suggestion is that will be self-serving.
Oh no, that is why they have the Privileges Committee. I mean, whatever you say which goes against Parliament.
They are going to be judges. They are going to be judges in their own case, a matter in which they have been accused.
That is the law,
Right.
That is the law. We have what we call the principle of necessity. If that is the only body that can sit on the matter, then I think that you've just got to give it to them to sit on it.
What do you say to Abraham Amalebe's suggestion that Parliament should make a report to the Shraj and then Shraj should take it on instead?
Well, Shraj has the mandate to investigate corrupt activities when it comes to public officers. That may be so, but Parliament is an organ. It's an organ of its own, of itself. It's a master of its own rules, and I think that they must be allowed to do what they want to do first, and then we can talk about it later. But it would be wrong for anybody to go prying into how Parliament does its work. Will be met with the same answer that whatever takes place in Parliament
is a closed book.
Yeah, I mean, judges
Right.
and the rest,
Okay.
don't have anything to do with it.
Thank you very much for your time, Ms. Aikotu. Yeah.
Yes, I think that there was a distortion that was
Reported to him because he was not
So,
listening or
yes.
watching.
And if you recall, Gabi, in making his submission, virtually indicated that the party hadn't received any such report. He was being fair with what he knew. But if you go to Peace FM online, there is this story that is headed, Interpol has not cleared Paul Afoko, NPP vetting committee. Now it's attributed to my own good friend Martin Ajay Sankosa, who is secretary to the National Vetting Committee. And the quote is this: what I do know is that in the name of the NPP, the vetting committee made a request to the Interpol. No matter the outcome of that information, certain response is expected from Interpol officially. Whether it is negative, it is positive, or even if it will not be granted, some correspondence must come from Interpol. As I speak to you, that has not happened, he told Adakabre Frimpong Manso. Okay, so officially, the impression that went out there was that the clearance was not based on any report from Interpol.
Which appears to contradict what the chairman...
Yes, as I said, because at least they had some verbal communication.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the party must come... I mean, we take this as they've cleared it, but really they must come out with a statement to
Yes, but Mr. Aikotu should not be bothered by a journalist intercepting a document before it gets to him.
Abdul Malik Kubaku Jr.
You shouldn't be worried
his
at all.
expertise. And he's got a tiger eye behind him as well. And just a minute, that question that Godwin was addressing, I was asking that would it have been, proper, or it's not even late, that the handlers of Nanado would have arranged that after having been away for 6 months, he comes back to the country. This is the opposition leader. In certain democracies, his first port of call would have been the presidency.
No, inappropriate. Within the context of the MPP's own constitution and election calendar, is Nanado the leader of the party? No. He was a former flag bearer who went to court, petitioned the court, lost the case, showed dignity, and accepted it, agreed. They accepted, but did not agree, and then exited for a while.
But his place in the scheme of things in
if the
this
president
country
were to extend an invitation to him for whatever purposes, yes, he could decide to honor the invitation. But he on his own, I mean, he's just a Ghanaian politician, high profile. No. He's a high profile.
When he goes out of this country, he carries a bigger, heart.
I am not sure. People would even accuse him of being arrogant and trying to usurp the authority of the state. Who is he? He's a high profile politician, two-time flag bearer who lost the elections. It's my favorite anyway. Nobody should make a mistake when it comes to making a choice. But I don't think that it would have been appropriate for the party to decide that you've come back, let's strike a meeting with the president. If the president is minded to call Akufo-Addo for a meeting, yes, I think that's fair.
Interesting thoughts there now. Thank you very much for your messages. Bonti Benjamin sends this one from Kumasi. He says, we only pray that God should touch Asumge Papa. Oh, is that the new name? Asumge Papa Akufo-Addo's heart to contest in the 2016 elections in order to save Ghana from the sinking ship. Ghanaians need Akufo-Addo's leadership now. Sofo Yamusa in Kumbungu writes, I think Paul Afoko will be a good chairman for NPP in 2016, with Nanado possibly coming forward for the 3rd consecutive time. We need to blend the leadership of the party with different perceived camps. Ghanaians will not forgive NPP if they don't win power in 2016. Okay, this one you don't name yourself, but you say that Nana Addo is playing with political jingoism. Mahama will retire him with an extra ex gratia to go and rest. Mohammed Abbas Haruna, right? I think the NPP is doing more harm than good to itself. I believe Nana has done his bit to the Dankwa Buzia tradition. There are a number of potential candidates within the NPP who can give one-touch competition to President Mahama, tough competition to President Mahama of the NDC than trying to impose or put out an image that Nana has been the fulcrum within the NPP. Thank you very much for all those your messages. Keep them coming. 1422 is the text line. You can post them on our Facebook wall or send them to newsfile@myjoyonline.com. The show, as always, is brought to you by Star Assurance. That is your CIMG Insurance Company of the year 2012, and they are your solid partner. Errata Motors, that is where you find the best vehicles for the best prices. And Lipton Tea, inspiration flowing from nature. Gabi gets served the way he wants it, and he sips it like nobody's business. We'll be right back after this break. You're welcome back, and the show is brought to you by the kind sponsorship of MTN. Welcome to the new world, and Lipton Tea, inspiration flowing from nature. Now let's now deal with a very final issue, and I've been asking the question whether or not the NARCOPS boss, that's the Narcotic Control Board, whether the boss, Akresi Sapon, his suggestion for a debate towards decriminalization or decriminalizing marijuana is his way of overcoming his frustrations with enforcing that particular law. Is Ghana really ready to join countries which have medical marijuana? That is the question that I'm asking for this very final part. Now, by our present laws, and I'm referring to the Narcotic Drugs Control Enforcement and Sanctions Law 1990, if you possess, if you cultivate, if you manufacture, if you use, if you import, if you export, if you smoke, if you sniff, if you consume, if you inject into your body any narcotic substance without lawful authority, you have committed a crime, which is actually a crime, depending on how the degree it is done, is a non-bailable offense, generally speaking, which can get you up to 10 years, not less than 10 years, or not less than 5 years in jail. What is changed? I'll start with Gabi on this point. Akresi Sapon, is he asking us to face reality and join the countries where they have found that this is the way to deal with their situation, or he's simply getting an avenue to excuse himself of the frustrations that he's facing? Because he says that almost many Ghanaians, he says, are already using it, cosmetics and in different forms.
Now, first of all, I disagree totally with any form of legalization of marijuana as smoking and that. And if I had my way, cigarette would even be banned. I mean, that's my personal view. I remember going into a bar yesterday and I was almost choked to death. So that I disagree.
Even you, who has had the benefit of the so-called progressive societies where some of these things are done, is what you say?
I was a teenager in UK when there were survey that 1 out of every 3 teenagers in London had tried marijuana. And don't ask me which of they, whether I was one or the but I'm saying, if I had my way, smoking will be banned. And I mean smoking generally, whether cigarettes, but that's if I had my way. And I really don't think we want to, and I think we can make a distinction in terms of the stuff that hemp itself can do. Hemp, industrial hemp itself is positive, and I think as a country, if we get into it, as for fiber, for oil and the rest of it, that aspect I support. Secondly, for medicinal use, I think really there's enough evidence. If there are a lot of states across the world, America for instance, and beyond, where it is allowed for medicinal use, and I think that is an area that we can look. What I also think we need to look at is the issue of because you know what certain countries have done is they have decriminalized it without necessarily legalizing it. You see what I mean? You know, I think it's a debate that we can raise, but I am very uncomfortable with legalizing the smoking. Yes. I think we don't need to go there. We should be. I'm quite happy. I mean, when you're in Ghana, you see fewer and fewer people are even smoking cigarettes. Yeah. And I think that's the way we should go, and we should encourage it. I'm not happy with any way of trying to get more people to smoke marijuana. I'm totally in disagreement with that. But I think also the punishment for the use of marijuana is too excessive. I mean, you go to court, sometimes somebody is caught with about 3-6 pieces and is given 5 years. You know, and really you are turning that person into a hardened criminal. So those things have to be looked at. There are even other forms of punishment that can be given.
The punishment, as you speak, the hands of the judges are tied, isn't it?
But
because they are giving the range, 10 years and 5 years.
And that I disagree with. I think really it is not productive. You're turning more and more people into criminals. You know, I mean, really, for somebody wants to turn around and make some money, and he sells 5 pieces. And then you give him 5 years.
That's the minimum the law says they can give.
Absolutely, but I'm saying we have to look at the law.
Right.
You know, I'm not saying that you should encourage people to go and sell it, but it makes absolutely no sense to charge someone, to put someone in jail for 5 years for selling weed worth above 5 Ghana cedis. It doesn't make any sense. I don't think it makes any sense at all. So we should, I think the area of the law requires some looking at. If there's evidence that we have the capacity for it to be used responsibly for medicinal purposes.
Do you think that we have that capacity? That's the first question.
Saying, if there's evidence, I'm not claiming to know, because those things there's several countries across the globe, Switzerland, states in the US, several countries across the globe where it is allowed for medicinal use. I think Uruguay is the only country in the world where it is legal for transportation, legal for smoking, legal for selling, legal for buying. You know, Uruguay is the only country in the world. But I think that we should look at it because there's a lot of evidence that it helps certain people who are suffering from certain, especially relieve their pain. And if there's evidence to that effect, I don't think we should shut our minds to it. But beyond that, I'm totally against legalizing the smoking of it.
Yes. What's your question?
I don't have a question for you.
You just turned and looked at me.
The question is already down on the table.
So Samson, let's assume that, no, it's not an assumption. His frustration is that it is being used everywhere and it's going underground. People are using it. I don't think that is sufficient to ask for its legalization. Because there are many thieves. And I also know there are many armed robbers. So should we call for the legalization of stealing and all those things? Indeed, FGM is one such practice which has been banned, but people still do it underground.
FGM, female genital mutilation.
And so I don't think that should be the reason for which. Why? We were told.
But what he's saying is true, that there's a widespread use of it. You have been to a village recently. Let's not play the ostrich about it. people take
It's
it.
frustration.
People take it.
Joblessness.
People who hire people to farm buy it for the laborers.
Yeah.
They have to sniff it
Yes.
and feel very energized to do their work.
I know that for a fact.
Right.
I know that for a fact. But the reasons for which he's asking for its legalization, for me, does not sit well with me as a legal practitioner, you know. If the debate is to look at how to rehabilitate persons who are in such a situation, but to say that we should legalize, I thought that some of the reasons for its ban was it has a health hazard. Sadly, has the health hazard thing become non-existent again? So if we are legalizing, are we saying that, well, we agree, a lot of people can take it and they can go mad? So the situation is not as if we should just say there should be a blanket, you know, legalization. I think that it should be for some reasons. For instance, Gabi has made a point that for medicinal purposes, I agree with that. But to open the floodgates, you see, sometimes you are not ready for the floods, and when you open it, we don't even have these medical facilities. This what do you call them?
Rehab centers.
Rehab centers, and you are asking people to take it. I think that he has to.
I'm not sure how many people actually go
I
to
don't know
rehab
whether
for
he's
smoking weed.
expressing his frustration
for
for his inability to clamp down upon it. If it is about that, then we need to strengthen his institution. If it's about his inability to clamp down upon it, let's strengthen the institution and let's give him more support to be able to clamp down upon it, but not a legalization.
Samson, a quick one. You know, in this country, you're lawyers. we don't make a distinction between hard drugs and soft drugs.
Right.
And it's a very serious issue.
Now, Godwin, tell me this. The law, if you read Section 5, or is it 6? Section 5 says, use of narcotic drugs prohibited. Section 5, subsection 1 says, no person shall without lawful authority, underline without lawful authority, or excuse. So there can be lawful authority, there can be excuse for smoking, sniffing, consuming, or injecting it into your body, or administering narcotic drugs on your body or otherwise. Tell me, this law, where in this country is provision made for it? So that, he said, if we're looking at the discussion so that we would make provision for those who really need help about it. There's someone who needs it to survive. He has proof that this is what he needs. You are familiar with Nyameneba versus the state case. They were growing it as a religious sect, using it for their own purposes without knowing that it is this substance you call it so.
And this brings to mind a case I have also read about the same thing.
Right.
And I mean, it's a South African case,
okay,
and it's couched in the same but the point is, if you are making a claim, for example, that you need to use it to survive.
I'm saying that by the law, it doesn't appear to be, there's an outright prohibition.
That's true. That's true.
Right.
So I'm then giving an example. The right to life is protected. And you can use that to justify some other rights that you may have to exercise, subject to national security, public health, and then those other things. So if you rely on this and then say that my life is at a risk, serious risk, if I don't take it, I will die. Question is, will this form part of the exceptions? It may well be.
So you are saying that in Ghana today, a lawyer can go to court in defense of a client, someone who has been accused of sniffing, smoking, or using or administering the substance,
if, for example,
because there is lawful authority or lawful excuse for the use.
That's correct.
I disagree.
Yes.
That's correct.
I disagree. Why I disagree is
because,
because there's no specific provision for lawful use.
Correct.
But it doesn't mean that.
No, let's hear about
it.
No, the three of you disagree, and I'm interested in that. There is.
There is. If you can produce medical evidence to show.
Medical evidence from
to
who?
show.
From a doctor in Ghana who licenses you to use marijuana?
We just indicated that it can be used for medicinal purposes.
Yes.
In that
Yes.
case,
So it can
the
be
call
used-
for the debate is moot because there's no need for it.
Yes, and so that's why I'm against a wholesale legalization. It should be legalized for only those who need it to survive, like you indicated. So if you are able to show medical proof that you need it to survive,
Is it an approved
And
drug?
he is asking you, Gabi is asking you, that is there a law in this country that says that your doctor
yes.
can say that you can go on and use it?
If it is allowed that doctors can prescribe it as a way of curing your
Is
illness,
there a law that says that that is allowed?
I am not in the medical field.
Right. That's
But
why
I
he's
know-
saying this
Very
law
well, but-
is useless.
but-
The exemption is useless.
But I know that if
Until
you
there's
are
an express law.
using insanity as defense in a criminal matter, it is not the lawyer who says it. It is the anchor for all those places. What do they call them?
Psychiatrist.
The psychiatric
That's a
doctor
different
who
matter.
must certify that you are insane. So in the same vein,
No.
same vein,
No, it doesn't apply.
if your doctor, but I do not know whether laws allow doctors to prescribe that drug. That is the issue that we need to look
There
at.
isn't in this country.
Fine. So
Yes.
that is where the
Except
the drug
that-
has to be first approved by the Food
Right.
and Drugs
Now-
No,
continue.
except that perhaps you will say that the law does not provide the modalities for identifying the lawful use. That may well be, I mean, a criticism, but it doesn't follow necessarily that the law as it is, you cannot find a basis to justify the use of marijuana, because the law itself does not impose a complete prohibition. It leaves a window of opportunity, but perhaps because it doesn't want to make it so explicit for that window of opportunity to be abused, it is left as it is, so that if you have a case, then prove it. And of course, I mean, it is not just going to be a medical practitioner practicing in some corner there who will simply just write it. You have to prove it.
Godwin,
And-
in the Nyaminiba case,
Okay.
it took their ignorance of the fact that the substance was marijuana to be saved. Other than that, they would have been in trouble.
Yes.
So what is the excuse you're talking about?
Let's say that the right to religion is protected under our constitution as a human right, and let's say that there is this a religious body that claims that the use of marijuana is central to its religious practice.
You're saying that would be lawful excuse?
Hold on. Now,
The
that
excuse
that-
ought to be lawful. Which is
Yeah.
the law that
so he can
allows
claim
the
that
excuse?
he can make that claim. So it is then for whoever is responsible for ensuring public safety, public health, public security, and all of that, to then come and prove that the use of this substance as part of a religious practice cannot be allowed because it violates these public prohibitions. But a person can make that claim.
I see.
So unless it can be proved that, look, the use of the item is not that essential. But once it is essential, he can claim it, except that it will then be subject to these overriding considerations.
A substance that you are not allowed to cultivate, to manufacture, to import, to export, in any way to deal with it without lawful excuse. Where is the lawful excuse? So, from what you are saying, Abdul Malik, do you agree with Gabi that this caveat is a moot one, is a useless one, because there's no prescription for the exemptions?
Yeah, I will come to that subsequently. Gabi made an interesting observation about the weight of custodial sentences that
Right.
are imposed. And
Right,
things.
right.
Having been to prison a couple of times, I'll tell you, when you go in there, those who have been busted, tried, and sentenced for smoking or possession and things, are seen as jokers. We laugh at them, we tease them. And you know why? There's a market in the prison.
Right.
So if
So
that
they tell me, and excuse my language, excuse my language.
nice market.
They say, "Who in your question?" And I asked to be forgiven for this language.
Right.
It's an
And are they
indecent.
banned from smoking in there?
Yeah. No, there's a market there.
so you have done nothing but punishment.
Perhaps there's more weed in there than outside. They smoke, they sell, you understand, and everything there. There's a prison economy, but for emphasis of this discussion, there's we market there. And
As
so
Tracy says, we can't deal with that situation. We have failed. So why not find a way of allowing it?
it's just that I was seeking clarity, or if you like, apparent lack of clarity, coherence, and precision in what he was putting forward.
Okay.
I've been reading what was captured by Graphic. He says, speaking on Power FM and Accra-based radio station, Mr. Sapon said that a virtual legalization of marijuana was already in place, as the illegal substance was being used as an ingredient for the production of cosmetics in the country.
Right.
According to him, the drug was also smoked openly by many Ghanaians, including reputable people. There's a little bit of confusion of thought here. Virtual legalization of things for production of cosmetics, I think that is
That's the industrial hemp.
Yeah.
But the open smoking and things. So what was he asking for? Legalization of what? Cultivation, trading, smoking, export. We need clarity. The thing must come with some coherence, some cohesion of thought, so that we can debate the issues properly.
So that's why he's inviting the debate.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate. And look, I'm a very blunt person. I smoked Indian hemp for almost 26 years. I'll be the last person to recommend its widespread use by the youth and anybody out there. It's not worth it. I'm an experienced man when it comes to those things. You should take my word for it, okay? But no, Ghana is an interesting place. Somewhere in 81, January, this is the Hansard. This debate came up, but that was a distinct one, export. Listen to what had happened. Somebody moved a motion in Parliament because Ghanaians were being arrested left, right, and center all over the world. And the preamble was this. It was one Mr. Owusu Secretary, independent parliamentary member of parliament for Sunyani. He says, Mr. Speaker, the incidence of hemp smoking is on ascendancy among Ghanaians both at home and abroad. In 1977, a colonel in the Ghana Army was reported to have been arrested at the Beirut International Airport for allegedly smuggling Indian hemp. Again in 1977, a Ghanaian medical doctor was arrested at Heathrow Airport in London for smuggling Indian hemp into Britain. He was jailed. About 2 weeks ago, 4 Ghanaian housewives were arrested at the Kotoka International Airport for allegedly carrying Indian hemp on them. On 20th January 1981, 2 ladies were also arrested at the Kotoka International Airport with Indian hemp tied around their bodies, allegedly being smuggled out of the country. When he said this preamble, the debate ensued. Then, interestingly, Mr. P.K. Owusu-Ansah, PFP, Wenchi East, he made a lot of submission. Then he came to this point. He said one approach would be to exploit the possibility of liaising with certain countries whose laws legalize the importation of Indian hemp. This way, perhaps one could find some way of leveling some taxes on the exportation of this drug to those particular countries that allow it, instead of allowing these things to go through the back door
without getting any taxes from.
But hold on. The most interesting one came from Nana K.
You don't get taxes on the on the what do you call it, the TNT given to the MPs, do you?
Something. But the most interesting of intervention came from Nana Akwaku Sapon. He was for Asante Akim North, and I'll read the full thing. It's not long. He says, Mr. Speaker, while supporting the statement, I would like to say that caution should be exercised in condemning the cultivation of Indian hemp. I know that it contains a chemical for the treatment of certain diseases and ailments, and so some countries have legalized this cultivation and exportation. I know that American taxpayers were made to pay millions of dollars to stamp out the cultivation of Indian hemp in Turkey, but they did not succeed because the farmers of Turkey were thrown out of business. They preferred to live on the cultivation of Indian hemp than on handouts from the American government. So now Indian hemp cultivation is legal in Turkey. I know also that in the Southeast Asian countries like Burma, Thailand and other areas, their governments have made millions of foreign exchange through the exportation of this commodity. Zaire has also legalized the export of Indian hemp.
Now the list is still
I'm coming. Yeah. The question is, if other countries are making millions of foreign exchange from the cultivation of this commodity, why do we not examine the possibility of legalizing its export? In the light of my suggestion, the government of Ghana can negotiate the quantity to be exported to various countries where importation of Indian hemp is legal. I think that a distinction has to be made between protecting our own citizens against excessive smoking of Indian hemp and the earnings that can accrue to Ghana from its exportation. We must find a way of exporting the hemp to earn some foreign exchange for this country. At least this was more focused debate in the sense that they were drawing the fine lines of distinctions in terms of cultivation and export, and not necessarily internal consumption.
But I'm also told that Ghana's the quality of Ghana's
this is actually not different from what Sakrasi Sapon was saying, because he spoke about the exportation and everything else. He said that, like Gabi, he said personally he's against legalization.
And I'm told that the quality of our weed in Ghana is very high. Just as
how do you know that? So I told you.
Actually, how do you know it?
No, they have varieties. Yes, they have very,
but
very.
You know, in
good
Holland, in Holland they have competition.
Really?
You can imagine the judges after going through three different.
Okay, sorry. This is morning radio, prime time.
No,
radio.
but the point is that I'm recommending that it ought not to be legalized, especially if it's in terms of allowing people to smoke it.
But
because
can we look
at implied here. That was not implied in the parliamentary Hansard. They were careful not to talk about allowing it, legalizing it in terms of smoking everywhere. It's implied. Even though Akresi was careful, he didn't say let's do that. He said let's debate it.
Right.
And look at the merits or demerits.
But we can look at the debate of decriminalization, at least partially, and also the sentencing. I think that's atrocious, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not progressive at all.
I see.
When you have a weed market in the prisons.
Let me take a few messages at this point. This is Nana Aye Boafo in Tema. He says Akresi Sapon should come to Tema Site 2 and see how marijuana has destroyed the youth. You will be shocked. I'm disappointed in him. Legalization or not in Ghana. Okay, David Kumasi says if we are using it in a medical way, it is going to be imported or bought. Is it going to be imported or bought locally? Well, like you have been told, there are sufficient enough, plantations around this country. The police have gone to certain places.
But you can have regulated cultivation.
Yes,
right.
That's
regulated cultivation.
So it means you are legalizing cultivation to some extent.
Joshua from Wa says, when Kweku, when did you stop taking it? Okay. You want to answer that? You stopped long ago.
No, he said something.
I said 26 years. I started from 1967.
So we should calculate
when I was 13. Do your mathematics.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, who's saying what next? Right. Thank you very much for your messages. I gather that there are...
Did Peter Tosh have any influence on you?
All of them.
There are a number of them also, but that have to do with the NPP, Nanado, and Free SHS, and the issue of the corruption matters. Right. You're still here on Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis show. And thank you very much for all the inputs that you are making onto the show. This is brought to you by MTN. That is everywhere you go. And now we say, welcome to the new world. Lipton tea, inspiration flowing from nature. Errata Motors, that is where you get the best vehicles for the cheapest prices. And also Star Assurance, they are your solid partner. Now, I was going to ask you, Godwin, that now he says this is a debate we should have. Should we have it? How should we go about it?
There is evidence that it has harmful effects, but there is also evidence that it can be put to good use. The debate then is, how do we get the good aspects of it without experiencing the bad aspects of it. That can be how to approach the debate, but not that it is widely used. I mean, the wide use of it cannot be a basis, but the debate should focus on how do we get the most out of it without, I mean, getting ourselves destroyed.
Promiscuity is widely used.
Which is the reason why I think the law as it is now, perhaps we need to debate the modalities for determining or ascertaining the lawful authority, in what circumstances and what control situation do we obtain that lawful authority.
Is lawful authority or lawful excuse?
Or excuse.
Right. See, the law, the framers of the law envisage some use of marijuana or narcotics. And that is why the law in its language said that without lawful use or authority, you can't use it.
Right.
So when you interpret the law, it will tell you that even those who framed the law knew or anticipated that there could be some instances where the use of it will be allowed.
We have spoken about that.
Yes.
But the use ought to be lawful and the excuse ought to be lawful. The authority upon which you are using it ought to be lawful and the excuse ought to be lawful. Doesn't that presuppose that there ought to be a law that tells you that this is how it is lawful to use, or this constitutes lawful excuse?
You mentioned a case, that is the Nyaniba's case. What's the name?
Yes, Nyaniba versus the state.
Good. And you saw the judge in that case use his own discretion and left the people off the hook. In normal legal jurisprudence, you wouldn't have had a judge, you know, leaving those people to go scot-free.
No, he used a cardinal principle of law.
Which is what?
Ignorance of the fact. It's not ignorance of the law. They were ignorant of the fact that
what they were planting was
the thing you call marijuana or Indian hemp or weed.
Oh, okay, so I thought it was the ignorance of the law. Okay, so it is right, but this would also call for the judge's discretion, because if there is no laid down regulation to implement this, then you will now call for the judge's discretion on this matter.
Okay.
Because the framers, as I indicated, intended that there will be a situation where there will be a lawful use of it.
Okay. I was going to ask. I was also going to ask you and Gabi to finish up and tell us how should the debate be had. Kuku has pointed us to a debate that started from Parliament. How should it be had?
First of all, it must be backed by evidence. Okay. This is a country that we don't do surveys. For instance, he said it. I would have been happy to see that, look, we've done a survey. When you look at teenagers, every 1 out of 5, for instance, use it. There's evidence that it helps if you have glaucoma, it helps if you have hypertension, if you have asthma, and that sort of thing. There's evidence that some doctors are even illegally prescribing it. You know, there's evidence that this is what it does and blah, blah, blah. Some people are getting rid of their cocoa farms to grow. You know, so I think it has to be evidence-based. Absolutely. I think that's how we should begin it. And then we should also look at evidence from elsewhere where it's been decriminalized, for instance, and the impact of that decriminalization.
I've been following Dr. Gupta, the CNN's correspondent, medical correspondent, and he's been doing a fantastic job with medical marijuana.
Absolutely. So let's look at all that, because look, industrial hemp is a major business, you know, in terms of fiber, for seed, you know, and oil and all that. They are all sort of stuff that we can even look at it as a business. The fiber from it is thicker than other fiber.
Okay.
So we can look at all that as far as I'm concerned. But also the criminalization, I think.
You have spoken about that. Now, the debate cannot be disorganized. It ought to be organized. Yeah. Civil society, or who is going to sponsor it?
No, it should be focused, and that's it. The NACOB boss definitely, and together with his outfit, will be part of this whole process. But it should be focused. It shouldn't be thrown into the marketplace for everybody to talk some. We need the experts, the pharmaceutical industry, those who will need it for those things, the psychiatric profession, they ought to be brought on board. All these things must be done before it even gets to Parliament if there's the need for any legislation or amendment of the legislation. So it should be a focused thing with the expert-driven, people who know the thing to deal with it. When it comes to the area of smoking and its negative effects, some of us could be contracted to give our experiences.
But look, alcohol is more dangerous than marijuana.
I am told so.
Alcohol is more dangerous than marijuana, but we allow it. We need to look at all that. And I would even recommend that we somehow even expand the debate. Because alcohol really...
expanding the debate, you hide the...
that tree. The ganja tree.
You hide
it. Very interesting there. This one says that when President Obama was quoted as saying that marijuana was less harmful than alcohol, I knew that America had found a foreign exchange and we must ban its importation vigorously. If the Ghana weed is a grenade, the American one is a nuclear bomb. Mando Francis from Saboba writes, even if we must be legally used, doctors should factor it into their drugs and not individual Ghanaians. Absolutely. This one says, Kweku, how? Okay, I've read that. This is a different one. Say, how did you stop? Somebody needs help. You need help, and you want advice from Kweku.
Self-discipline. Self-discipline.
Yeah.
Self-discipline.
And if you got to a stage, you really are doing more serious things.
Right.
The politics had become very focused. I mean, journalism, all those serious things took one away from, the other.
And apparently it can affect your sex life too.
Well, in my case, it was rather...
Gabi, lead us not into temptation. Thank you very much. My guests have been Abdul Malik Kweku Jr., who is the editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, Abraham Amalba. He is a member of the NDC legal team, and he is a lecturer. Godwin Adaone is a lecturer and a private practitioner, law. Gabi Asare Ochridako is the publisher of the New Statesman newspaper and is a consultant who is based in the United Kingdom. Samson Ladi Anyanini. What does he want here?
This is hometown.
Oh, he's based there. Gabi, these days you should follow him. He's not always in town. But he drives in and out of town as if
here to
Accra and
we bring investors.
London.
We bring investors. Yes. Except the only thing that's up is the dollar.
Okay. Thank you very much. This show, as always, is brought to you by MTN. Welcome to the new world, Errata Motors, and also Lipton Tea, inspiration from nature. And my outfit, as always, and as you see, those of you watching on TV, you see the Latida numbers there. Call them, and you will get very well dressed by Latida. They'll just call you, and take your measurements and everything, and take good care of you. The show is repeated. There's a repeat broadcast at 9:30 p.m. on this same platform, and you could also watch it on the Sky, ABN TV on the Sky platform in London or elsewhere in Europe. The show was produced by Sedem Ofori with the assistance of Emmanuel Ante, Samuel Odame, Nicholas, and Abubakar Yaya as well. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon. The news is up next.